So with the release of this material coming at the time that it is, I was really curious about where it came from and how it started. And we had a camera here, we had a mic here, so I thought I'd put them on the spot a little bit, and here we are. So there it is.
There it is. How did this begin? I'd say really the point I would identify as the starting point is when Eric and I were at the Inosanto Academy with the After Midnight group. And Eric had a background distinct in certain important respects from most martial arts people. He had played defensive end for Columbia University football, not an outstanding team. He jokes about how they were the last team to win a game before Columbia went on to the longest losing streak in college history. But nonetheless, to play defensive end would put him at considerable variance from the experience, the nature, the level of contact with which he was comfortable compared to the typical Filipino martial artist of the 1980s. We're looking at about 1985 here. And he had also played lacrosse. And the way lacrosse people manipulate the stick while they're running and moving and shifting angles, I think that also influenced him. And for him, being 6'4", 220, and bigger than most of the people in Filipino martial arts, and he was always looking for people to play with, he was very conscious of not overwhelming them psychologically and emotionally. And so it would be, and the way he would run in behind a roof block and this and that, and then rather than overwhelm them emotionally so they would never play again, he would, it was like, okay, break, reset. But as we were at the Inosanto Academy with the After Midnight group, we developed a rowdier bunch of people. And so we had people where the grappling wasn't psychologically intimidating. We didn't know what we were doing. This was well before the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu revolution. But we started allowing the grappling, and this was also the point where we went from the heavy protective headgear that Eric had fashioned. There's one night that Mark Sandin, later to be Puppy Dog, he was just coming in using the headgear kind of as a helmet and smashing, just ignoring shots to the head on the way in. And so I reached up on a shelf, and there were some old pre-Ralph Nader fencing masks up there, and put that on him, and we all started wearing the fencing masks at that point, and we learned to protect our IQ. And there's a tremendous shot in the power tape where Eric hits me a fearsome backhand, and
and these are first-gen masks.
Yeah,
right?
these are first-gen masks.
Screen door around your head.
Exactly. And that the experience of Eric's power backhand to my head there has always left me thinking very carefully about the art and science of protecting one's head. And so a lot of the material that I've worked on since then has been with that idea in mind, as the importance of protecting your head. Even though the masks are heavier now, third or fourth generation, and there's many areas where it's almost helmet-like. There's other areas where you can drop somebody. That influence, the influence of that experience remains with me. And also as research continues to evolve and we're more conscious of the consequences of blows to the head, the stuff we've seen in the NFL and in hockey, and our soldiers who've had bomb blasts and and things of this sort. So we have threads on our forum where we try to do our best to stay on top of the research so that people understand what they're risking. Yep. It was at this point that we evolved in the After Midnight group to the grappling was allowed. And was sort of as we got into the Dog Brothers started in 1988. We had the Rumble at Rambless, and you see grappling there, but it remained clueless. I had heard of the Brazilian of the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in the mid '80s. My last year with Paul Vunek, he had started with them and wasn't ready to opened the door for anybody else. So when my friend at the Inosanto Academy, Chris Howder, who's with whom I now train, he's a 5th degree black belt under Higgin. He and I were paired up one night during one evening seminar with Eric Paulson. Eric Paulson, I think if I remember correctly, was training with both Rickson Gracie and Yuri Nakamura at that point. And so at this point, the martial art world, except for the grappling portion of it, really just didn't realize that grappling existed. But I recognized the importance of this, and I had a lot of respect for Chris. And so when he said to me, well, I've started training with these Machado brothers, I said, well, that's not Gracie. He said, no, yeah, they are Gracie, just their blood comes through the mother and not the father, hence the different name. And so he introduced me to them in the summer of 1990, and that's when I began my training with them.